Well, the stakes are high for some workers in New York who won't get vaccinated. Today is the deadline for teachers, healthcare workers and nursing home staff to get the jab. If they don't, they won't be able to work in New York. Our correspondent William Denselow is following the story for us. He joins us now live. So, Will, in South Africa, this seems a bit drastic. Tell us how it's going to work.
Well, Shahan, essentially, as you rightly mentioned, as of midnight tonight, if you work in one of the state's hospitals, so not just New York City, New York State has about 450,000 employees across the state's healthcare system, like this hospital you can see behind me in Midtown Manhattan. That means that if you do not have proof that you've had at least one COVID-19 vaccine jab by midnight, you'll no longer be allowed to work in these institutions. That goes as well for if you work in nursing homes as well. And it's not just there. The hope was in New York City specifically that this vaccine mandate would also apply to those working in the city's school systems. However, when it comes squarely to New York's school system, of course, the largest in the nation, including around 1 million public school children across New York City, that has been held up in the courts. We're expected to hear a hearing on that particular measure as of Wednesday. But this is just the latest step in New York State's efforts to get people vaccinated. It's estimated that at least 82% of those in New York City have been vaccinated, have had at least one shot. But message from officials is they want to not stop there. They want to boost that vaccine number. They feel that these mandates are the best way to achieve that.
Yeah, so if people don't get the vaccine by midnight, does it automatically mean they'll be fired, or will they be given some opportunity to get the vaccine and then return to work?
Well, the message is that they've had a long chance to get their vaccines. The message from officials is that it's a huge hope that by this deadline, by midnight, more and more people will get vaccinated. And of course, if people are vaccinated in the future and then reapply for these positions, or if they work out some stipulations with their employers, then that should be fine. But the bottom line is that if you're not vaccinated come Tuesday here in the state of New York, and you are a healthcare worker, if you do work in nursing homes, you will not be allowed to work. You have to find a job in a state elsewhere. Governor Kathy Hochul has put in some provisions for this because there are some real concerns about potential staffing shortages. Governor Hochul has announced that she's prepared to sign an executive order which will mean that healthcare workers from out of state will be allowed to come to New York to work. Also saying that she's preparing to have the medically trained members of the National Guard even come in should there be staffing shortages.
Yeah, and well, let's talk about the fairness of this, because there might be some healthcare workers who can't take the jab for medical reasons because of the reaction. Is that considered?
That certainly is considered, but for the huge majority of those that are yet to be vaccinated, those kind of considerations do not apply. The officials have a very strict policy when it comes to this, that both the Federal Drug Administration, the FDA has approved it, it's safe to use. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have also deemed it safe and effective to use. So the message we're hearing from officials is that there should be very, very few exceptions. People should be required to get the jab. We've heard from some teachers' unions here in the city. They say they want some more time to be able to deal with this vaccine rollout, to be able to get stipulations in place, more time for people to perhaps become more comfortable with the idea of getting vaccinated before such strict mandates are rolled out. But officials are very much hoping that the courts will rule in their favour when it comes to the school system, and that school teachers will be mandated to get the jab by as early as this week. Of course, Shahan, this also comes just a few weeks after restaurants in the city were mandated to also require patrons to show proof of vaccination if you want to dine inside of restaurants. That applies not only to restaurants, but also things like gyms and indoor concert venues as well. So certainly New York State is leading the nation when it comes to these incredibly strong vaccine mandates. Kathy Hochul, the governor, says that she's tired of the pandemic and this is the best way to move forward.
Imagine if that happened in South Africa. We'd have people hopping mad here over that mandate. That's obviously something that we're discussing and debating as well. But let's get to some breaking news that's coming in the U.S. It's regarding R. Kelly and, of course, those charges against him of racketeering and sex trafficking. What's the latest?
Well, the message is that, the latest is that R. Kelly's been found guilty on 9 counts, 1 of racketeering and 8 of these sex trafficking charges known as the Mann Act here in the United States. That brings with it the possibility of decades behind bars. And we've heard testimony that's lasted around 6 weeks. We've heard a witness testimony from some 50 people, but the case really revolved around some accounts from involving about 6 women, and some of the testimony absolutely striking. Instances of R. Kelly having allegedly sex with underage girls, even knowingly giving some of these underage girls herpes as well. This isn't the end of the legal battle for R. Kelly. He faces, of course, the sentencing here in New York, but he still faces trials in the states of Minnesota and Illinois as well.